How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Thursday, April 8th. And today I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. With the NFL season, of course, being over, I'm going to start with the NBA and looking into last night's primetime performances that were on TNT. Starting in Miami, the reigning Eastern Conference champs, the Miami Heat, hosted the reigning NBA champs, the Los Angeles Lakers, in a rematch of last year's NBA Finals. The Lakers, of course, missing their best two players, and in this game, the Miami Heat would beat the Lakers 110-104. Of course, the difference would come in the second half. They did outscore Miami by 8 in the second half in order to come from behind and pick up this big win, their 27th of the season. For the Los Angeles Lakers, their leading scorer was their starting shooting guard out of Georgia, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who finished with 28 points in 39 minutes, shooting 11 for 20 from the field and 6 for 11 from three. And for the Miami Heat on the night, their leading scorer would be their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, who finished with 28 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals in 36 minutes, as he shot 8 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 11 for 12 from the foul line. Alongside him in their starting lineup, their elite starting center, Bam Adebayo, would finish with 13 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks in 28 minutes, as he shot 6 for 12 from the field and 1 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the Miami Heat are now 27-25. They are tied with the Atlanta Hawks for the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference, as the Heat have now won 5 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit even with the Charlotte Hornets, as they and the Hawks have one more win and one more loss, so they're all even in the playoff picture, but they both sit right under the Hornets. But all three of these teams sit 5.5 games behind the third place Milwaukee Bucks, and all three of these teams sit one game ahead of the Boston Celtics, as the Miami Heat currently trail the first place Brooklyn Nets by 9 games in the conference. With this loss, the defending champs Los Angeles Lakers are now 32-20. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 2 games. They've now lost, 6 of their last 4 games. This is a 1-game losing streak for them. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit a game and a half behind the 4th place Denver Nuggets, and they sit a game and a half ahead of the 6th place Portland Trailblazers, as they trail the Utah Jazz by 7 games in the Western Conference. Looking out to the other primetime matchup of last night, the Los Angeles Clippers hosted the Phoenix Suns, as this was a 2-3 matchup in the Western Conference. In this one, the Clippers would beat the Suns 113-103. The difference being the second half, where they outscored the Phoenix Suns by 12 to come from behind and pick up their 35th win of the season. For the Suns, their leading scorer was their elite starting shooting guard, Devin Booker, who finished with 24 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in 37 minutes, as he shot 6 for 13 from the field and 12 for 14 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their small forward, Mikal Bridges, would finish with 20 points and 5 rebounds in 36 minutes, as he shot 7 for 13 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 3 for 3 from the foul line. And their elite starting point guard, Chris Paul, would finish with 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 4 for 11 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. For the Los Angeles Clippers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite shooting guard, Paul George, who finished with 33 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 34 minutes, as he shot 12 for 19 from the field, 7 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. And alongside him in the starting lineup, their goated small forward, Kawhi Leonard, would finish with 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 turnovers in 38 minutes, as he shot 10 for 20 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. With this win, the Los Angeles Clippers are now 35-20, they're 35-18. That is the 3rd best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 3 games, and they have now won 8 of their last 10, as well as the other top 4 teams in the West. All the top 4 teams in the West have won 8 of their last 10 games, coincidentally. At the same time, in the Western Conference playoff picture, they now trail the Phoenix Suns by 2 games They trail the second place Suns by 2 games, and they sit 1 game ahead of the fourth place Denver Nuggets as they trail the Utah Jazz by 4.5 games in the Western Conference. With this loss, the Phoenix Suns are now 36-15. With this loss, they now hold the second best record in the Western Conference as they have won 8 of their last 10 games despite this loss. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 2.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz, and they now sit 2 games ahead of the Los Angeles Clippers, like I just said. So that's where these two teams sit. Looking at the games that weren't on prime time, jumping out to Toronto, the Raptors hosted the Chicago Bulls, and in this matchup, the Bulls would beat the Raptors 122-113. In the first half, they would outscore Toronto by 13 points, and of course, with this momentum, they carried it through the end of the game. For the Raptors in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their starting power forward, Chris Boucher, who finished with 38 points and 19 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 14 for 24 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their elite starting power forward, Pascal Siakam, would finish with 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 blocks. As he played 38 minutes, he shot 10 for 17 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. For the Chicago Bulls in this matchup, their 2 All-Stars would tie for the team high in scoring. Their All-Star shooting guard, Zach LaVine, would finish with 22 points, 6 rebounds, 13 assists, 3 steals, and 5 turnovers in 38 minutes, as he shot 8 for 16 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. And their All-Star starting center, Nikola Vucevic, would finish with 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 9 for 19 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and he made his only three-pointer of the day. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are now 22-28. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 3 games, and they have won 4 of their last 10. Outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they currently sit 2 games behind the 8th place New York Knicks, and they sit 13 total games behind the first place Brooklyn Nets in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Toronto Raptors are now 20-32, as they have now lost their last 2 games and 7 of their last 10. They currently sit 5 games behind the 8th place New York Knicks outside of the playoff picture, as they now trail the Brooklyn Nets by 16 games in the conference following this. Jumping out to Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City Thunder hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers were able to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 129-102 after outscoring OKC by 24 in the second. They would outscore them by 14 points in the third quarter and 9 in the fourth. Of course, that would combine for 23 total points that they outscored them in the second, 27 for the game. For the Oklahoma City Thunder in this loss, their leading scorer will come off the bench. Their shooting guard out of Virginia, Ty Jerome, would finish with 23 points in 32 minutes, shooting 9 for 16 from the field and 5 for 9 from 3. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard out of Alabama, Colin Sexton, who finished with 27 points in 33 minutes, shooting 9 for 17 from the field and 9 for 10 from the foul line. And alongside him, or off the bench, their power forward, Taurean Prince, would finish with 22 points and 6 assists in 28 minutes, as he went on to shoot 9 for 15 from the field. He also shot 3 for 5 from 3, and he made his only free throw of the night. And then their starting point guard out of Vanderbilt, Darius Garland, would finish with 21 points and 5 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 8 for 15 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 19-32. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won their last 2 games, 4 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference, they now sit 5.5 games behind the 8th place New York Knicks outside of the playoff picture, and they now trail the Brooklyn Nets by 16.5 games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 20-32. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 5 games. They've now lost 8 of their last 10. They sit 7.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they now sit 19 full games behind the first place Utah Jazz in the conference. Jumping out to Dallas, the Dallas Mavericks hosted the Milwaukee Bucks in what was a very well-anticipated matchup. In this matchup, the Mavericks would beat the Bucks 116-101. They won by 15 after outscoring the Bucks by 19 in the fourth quarter to come from behind and pick up one of their biggest wins of the season. For the Milwaukee Bucks in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard out of Villanova, Dante DiVincenzo, who finished with 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals in 29 minutes, as he shot 7 for 13 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. And their starting center, Bobby Portis, would finish with 20 points and 14 rebounds in 35 minutes, as he shot 8 for 19 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. For the Dallas Mavericks in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their elite starting point guard, Luka Doncic, who finished with 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 20 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 2 for 5 from the foul line. And alongside him in the starting lineup, their starting center, Kristaps Porzingis, would finish with 26 points, 17 rebounds, and 2 blocks. As the former Eastern Conference All-Star would play 30 minutes, he shot 10 for 20 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Dallas Mavericks are now 29-22, as they have now won 7 of their last 3 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit 1 game behind the 6th place Portland Trail Blazers, and they sit 2 games ahead of the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies, who are just inside, as they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 9.5 games in the Western Conference. With this loss, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 32-19. That is the 3rd best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 2 games, and they've now lost 5 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit 3 full games behind the 2nd place Philadelphia 76ers, and they sit 5.5 games ahead of the 4th place Charlotte Hornets, the 5th place Atlanta Hawks, and the 6th place reigning Eastern Conference champs, the Miami Heat, at the moment. Jumping out to Utah, Salt Lake City, the Jazz hosted the Portland Trail Blazers, as the Jazz continued to hold they showed the Trailblazers why they have the best record in the league. They would beat the Trailblazers 122-103, and the big difference would come in the third, where they outscored Portland by 21 points and carried that momentum through the end of the game. For the Trailblazers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Damian Lillard, who finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 21 from the field, 3 for 12 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line on the night. For the Utah Jazz, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, who finished with 37 points and 5 rebounds and 4 assists in 33 minutes, as he shot 14 for 25 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. Their elite starting center, Rudy Gobert, would finish with 18 points, 21 rebounds, and 2 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 6 for 9 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. And their all-star point guard, Mike Conley, would finish with 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in 23 minutes, as he shot 3 for 12 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Last but not least, jumping out to Sacramento, the Sacramento Kings hosted the Detroit Pistons, and in this matchup, the Pistons would beat the Kings 113-101. Big difference would come in the first half. Of course, they outscored the Kings by 18 points and would carry that momentum to pick up their 16th win of the season. For the Sacramento Kings, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard out of Kentucky, De'Aaron Fox. He finished with 23 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals in 37 minutes, as he shot 8 for 19 from the field and 7 for 11 from the free throw line. For the Detroit Pistons in this matchup, their leading scorer would, of course, be their starting guard, Corey Joseph, out of Texas. Corey Joseph would finish with 24 points in 32 minutes, as he also finished with 7 assists. He shot 10 for 14 from the field and 4 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 16-36. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won 4 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 9 games behind the 8th place New York Knicks outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, as they now trail the Brooklyn Nets by 20 full games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 22-30. That is the fourth worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 5 games. They've now lost 5 of their last 10. They currently sit 5.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the Utah Jazz by 17 games in the Western Conference. That's what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's games. Of course, looking into what's going on today, starting with the primetime matchups. At 7:30, the New York Knicks, who are the current holders of the Eastern Conference's 8th best record, are going to host the Memphis Grizzlies, the current holders of the Western Conference's 8th best record, just to give you a litmus test as to how good the playoff pictures are. That game's going to be on ESPN TV, or that's going to be on NBA TV. And then following that at 10 o'clock, the Golden State Warriors are going to host the Washington Wizards. Stephen Curry and Russell Westbrook, two of the greatest point guards in NBA history, are going to face off against one another in the Chase Center. Outside of those two matchups that are going to be on prime time, the Orlando Magic are going to host the Indiana Pacers at 7 o'clock. The Boston Celtics are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves at 7:30. The Atlanta Hawks are going to host the Chicago Bulls at 8 o'clock. And the New Orleans Pelicans are going to host the Philadelphia 76ers at the same time. At 9 o'clock, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to host the Charlotte Hornets. At the same time, the Denver Nuggets will host the San Antonio Spurs. Last but not least, at 10 o'clock, the Los Angeles Clippers will host the Houston Rockets, who are the current holders of the second worst record in the Western Conference at the moment. So that's what the NBA is looking like. Staying within the arena, but of course shifting the context to ice, looking at what the NHL is going through, and of course I got to warn that within the NHL, every team has to play within their own division. So starting in the North Division, the Winnipeg Jets went to Montreal and were able to beat the Canadiens 4-2 after they scored 3 of their goals in the first period. With their 24th win of the season, the Winnipeg Jets are now sitting third in the North Division. They now trail the Toronto Maple Leafs by 6 points in the table. And that's jumping out to Ottawa. The Ottawa Senators hosted the Edmonton Oilers, and the Edmonton Oilers were able to pick up a 3-1 win after they came into the third period completely tied up at 1. With their 25th win of the season, the Edmonton Oilers are now sitting second in the North Division as they now trail the Maple Leafs by 5 points in the table. They've now won their last 2. And those are the 2 games that were going on in Canada. Jumping on to see what's going on the East Coast, the Buffalo Sabres hosted the New Jersey Devils as the Devils beat the Sabres 6-3 after they scored 3 goals in both the first and the third periods. With their 14th win of the season, the New Jersey Devils now currently hold the second worst record in the East Division as they trail the New York Islanders by 22 points in the Eastern Division table, even though they've only played 2 less games. Jumping out to New York, the Islanders beat the Flyers at home 3-2 to pick up their 26th win of the season. With this win, the New York Islanders now sit on top of the East Division as they now sit 2 points ahead of the second-place Washington Capitals at the moment. Jumping to New York, the Rangers hosted the Pittsburgh Penguins as the Penguins were able to beat the Rangers 5-2, scoring 2 goals in the second and the third period. With their 25th win of the season, the Pittsburgh Penguins now hold the third best record in the East as they now sit 4 points behind the first place Islanders. Jumping out to D.C., the Washington Capitals hosted the Boston Bruins. In this matchup, the Bruins would overwhelm the Capitals with scoring, winning this game 4-2 to pick up their 21st win of the season. With this win, the Boston Bruins now hold the fourth most points in the East Division as they now trail the New York Islanders by 8 points in the table, even though they've played 3 less games. Mathematically, they very well could pass them. But that's the East Division. Checking out what's going on in the Central. First off, the Carolina Hurricanes hosted the Florida Panthers and were able to score a goal in each period to win this game 3-0. With their 27th win of the season, the Carolina Hurricanes now currently sit on top of the Central Division as they sit 1 point ahead of the second place Lightning and Florida Panthers as they are now on a 3-game win streak. Big win for them. Jumping out to Columbus, Ohio, the Blue Jackets hosted the Tampa Bay Lightning. In this matchup, the Lightning would win this game 6-4. Their center Gord would finish with 4 assists He was finished with an assist on 4 of the 6 goals. And with their 27th win of the season, the Lightning now are tied with the Panthers for the second best record in the Central Division, as they both trail the Carolina Hurricanes by a point in the table. And then jumping out to Detroit, the Detroit Red Wings hosted the Nashville Predators, as the Predators were able to beat the Red Wings 7-1. Their right winger Arvidsson would finish with a hat trick of his own, and with their 22nd win, the Nashville Predators now hold the 4th best record in the Central Division, as they now sit 12 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes, as they are now on a 3-game win streak. And last but not least, jumping out to Chicago, the Blackhawks hosted the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars would win this game 5-1. Their left winger Hintz would finish with a goal and 3 assists on the night. With their 14th win of the season, the Dallas Stars now hold the 6th best record in the Central Division. They currently sit 19 points behind the first place Carolina Hurricanes in the table, and that's currently what that's currently what the NHL is looking like today, following yesterday's matchups. Looking at what's going on today, starting with prime time, the New Jersey Devils will host the Pittsburgh Penguins at 7:00 on ESPN+, and at the same time on the same network, the New York Islanders will host the New York Rangers in a New York face-off in the Barclays Center. Outside of the primetime matchups in hockey, at 7:00, the Buffalo Sabres will host the Washington Capitals. The Sabres have the worst record in the East Division, and the Capitals have the second best. The St. Louis Blues are going to host the Minnesota Wild, the Golden at 8:00, and then at 10:00, the Las Vegas Golden Knights will host the Arizona Coyotes, and the Anaheim Ducks will host the Colorado Avalanche, same time. And then to finish out the West Division's matchups at 10:30, the San Jose Sharks will host the Los Angeles Kings. So that's what the NHL is looking like. Jumping out to see what's going on with the MLB. There weren't as many games yesterday, as some teams kind of took their day off. Starting in New York, the New York Mets hosted the Miami Marlins, and coming into the 9th inning, they were trailing 2-1, but it would be a Jeff McNeil home run that would tie the game for the Mets. And then there was a hit, and then a player was hit by a pitch to win a game, or Michael Conforto was hit by a pitch to win the game for the New York Mets to win it 3-2 to pick up their second win of the season. For the Miami Marlins in this matchup, their starting left fielder, Corey Dickerson, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. He was their big performer on the day. And then for the New York Mets on the other side, the start would go to Taijuan Walker, who would allow 2 earned runs in his 6 innings pitch as he struck out 4 batters. Their elite shortstop, Francisco Lindor, would go 1 for 3 with a run. Their center fielder, Brandon Nimmo, would go 3 for 5 on the day. Their elite first baseman, Pete Alonso, would go 0 for 2 as he walked twice as well. And then Jeff McNeil would hit his first home run of the season. With this win, the New York Mets are now 2-2. That is the second best record in the National League East, as they sit 2 games behind the first place Philadelphia Phillies. And with this loss, the Miami Marlins are now 1-6. That is the worst record in the NL East, as they now sit 4.5 games behind the first place Philadelphia Phillies. And after this loss to the Mets, they sit 2.5 games behind the Mets. Jumping out to, staying within the East, but this time jumping to the American League, the Baltimore Orioles hosted the Boston Red Sox, and in this matchup, the Red Sox would beat the Orioles 7-3, as 5 of their runs came in the 6th through 8th innings. For the Baltimore Orioles in this matchup, the loss went to their starting pitcher, Matt Harvey, who would allow 4 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 5 batters. Their left fielder, Ryan Mountcastle, would go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his first home run of the season. And then their catcher, Severino, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as Pedro Severino hit his first home run of the season as well. For Boston, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Eduardo Rodriguez, who allowed 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 7 batters on the day. Their right fielder, Alex Verdugo, will go 2 for 5 with 2 runs on the day. Their third baseman, Rafael Devers, would go 2 for 3 with 2 runs and 2 RBIs as he hit his first home run of the season as well. And their elite designated hitter, JD Martinez, would go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run as JD Martinez was able to get his team on the board as well. With this win, the Boston Red Sox are now 4-3. That they are now tied with the Baltimore Orioles for the best record in the American League East. And of course, with this loss, Orioles have the same record. They both sit half a game ahead of the third place New York Yankees, just to show where they sit in the division. Jumping out to Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Pirates hosted the Chicago Cubs, and the Chicago Cubs were able to pull off a 4-2 win after the Pirates were leading as late as as the Pirates carried a lead into the sixth inning. For the Cubs in the sixth inning, it would be a Javier Baez home run that would put them above, and then an Anthony Rizzo home run, as they were able to get a home run from their superstar trio. For the Pirates in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher Tyler Anderson, who would allow 3 earned runs in 5.1 innings pitched, as he struck out 5 batters in the 5.1 innings that he pitched. And then their second baseman, Adam Frazier, would finish with 2 hits on the day for Pittsburgh. Their right fielder, Gregor Polanco, would go 2 for 3 as well, as he finished with a run. For Chicago, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Jake Arrieta. He's now 2-0 on the season. He would allow 2 earned runs in the 6 innings that he pitched, as he struck out 4 batters, and the second save of the season went to their elite closer, Craig Kimbrell. In the starting lineup, their elite third baseman, Chris Bryant, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. He hit his second home run of the season. Their first baseman, Anthony Rizzo, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs, as he hit his first home run of the season. And their elite shortstop, Javier Baez, would go 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run, as he hit his second home run of the season. With this win, the Chicago Cubs are now 4-3. That is the third best record in the National League Central, as they currently trail the first place Cincinnati Reds by 1.5 games at the moment. And with this loss, the Pittsburgh Pirates are now 1-6, as they currently have the worst record in the National League Central. They currently trail the first place Cincinnati Reds by 4.5 games in the division. Jumping out to Denver, the Colorado Rockies hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks. In this matchup, the Rockies would beat the Diamondbacks 7-3, as the Diamondbacks would wait until the Rockies would score all 7 of their runs to score their 3. For the Diamondbacks in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly would allow 6 earned runs in 6 innings pitched in this loss. He's now 0-2 on the season with this loss. The only player in their batting order that was really kind of producing would be Pavin Smith, their right fielder, who went 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. For the Colorado Rockies in this matchup, the win went to their starting pitcher, John Gray, who would allow 1 earned run in 6 innings pitched, as he struck out 5 batters in almost 7 innings. Their shortstop, Trevor Story, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. Nunez, their catcher, would go 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run, as Dom Nunez would hit his 3rd home run of the season for Colorado. And their elite right fielder, Charlie Blackmon, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs for himself. With this win, the Colorado Rockies are now 3-4. That is the 4th best record. That is the 4th best record in the National League West, as they now trail the Los Angeles Dodgers by 2 games in the division. And with this loss, the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 2-5. That is the worst record in the NL West, as they now trail the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers by 3 games in the NL West. They now sit 1 game behind the Rockies following this win. Jumping out to Minneapolis, the Minnesota Twins hosted the Seattle Mariners and were able to put 10 runs up on the board, as Jose Barrios picked up his 2nd win of the season. For the Mariners in this matchup, the start would go to Marco Gonzalez, who allowed 7 earned runs in 4.1 innings pitched, as he struck out 6 batters. The only player for the Mariners, they had 2 players that logged multiple hits. Their designated hitter, Ty France, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI on the day. And then their catcher, who is Luis Torrens, will go 3 for 4 with a run on the day. And for the Minnesota Twins in this matchup, the win will go to their starting pitcher, Jose Barrios, who allowed 2 earned runs in 5.2 innings pitched, as he struck out 8 batters. And with this win, he is now 2-0 on the season. Their left fielder, Garlick, will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run. Their center fielder, Byron Buxton, would go 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs, as he now has 4 home runs on the season for himself. And then their catcher, Garver, will go 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. And then last but not least, their shortstop, Andrelton Simmons, would go 3 for 5 with a run on the day. With this win, the Minnesota Twins are now 5-2 in the American League Central. That is the best record, as they sit a game and a half ahead of the 4-4 Chicago White Sox, the 3-3 Kansas City Royals, and the 3-3 Detroit Tigers, all sitting at 500. With this loss, the Seattle Mariners are now 3-4. That is the fourth worst record. That is the fourth best record in the American League West, as they now sit 3 full games behind the first place Houston Astros. Jumping out to Chicago, the south side of Chicago, the Chicago White Sox hosted the Kansas City Royals and were able to put up a 6-0 win, as they were led by Lance Lynn, and Lance Lynn's first win for the Chicago White Sox. For the Kansas City Royals in this matchup, the loss would go to Brad Keller, as he only pitched 3 innings. Their elite second baseman, Whit Merrifield, would go 1-for-4 on the day. Their elite catcher, Salvador Perez, would go 1-for-3 on the day for himself. And for Chicago, the complete game shutout win would go to their starting pitcher, Lance Lynn, who allowed no earned runs and allowed only 5 hits in all 9 innings that he pitched, as he struck out 11 batters on the day. The right fielder, Adam Eaton, would go 2-for-5 with 2 RBIs on the day. Their elite first baseman, reigning American League MVP, Jose Abreu, would go 1-for-4 with a run on the day. Yohan Moncada, their third baseman, would go 1-for-4 with 2 RBIs and a run, as he hit his first home run of the season. Their designated hitter, Yermin Mercedes, would go 2-for-4 with an RBI and a run, as he hit his second home run of the season, and his was a bomb. And then their shortstop, Danny Mendick, would go 3-for-3 on the day for them as well. With this win, the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals are both sitting at 500. The Royals are 3-3. The White Sox are 4-4. Because of this, both these teams, alongside the Tigers, sit a game and a half behind the first place Minnesota Twins. Jumping out to the National League Central, the St. Louis Cardinals hosted the Milwaukee Brewers, and after the Brewers took a 1-0 lead in the third inning, it would take the Cardinals until the 7th inning to score all through. They scored 1 run to tie it up, and then in the 8th inning, it would be a 2-run home run from their newest elite third baseman to give them their 5th win of the season. For the Milwaukee Brewers, the start, of course, went to Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes would allow no earned runs and only allow 1 hit in the 6 innings that he pitched, as he struck out 9 batters. Yardley would blow the save for Milwaukee. Their elite left fielder, Christian Yelich, would go 0-for-3 as he walked once, and their third baseman, Travis Shaw, would go 3-for-4 on the day. For the St. Louis Cardinals in this matchup, their elite third baseman, Nolan Arenado, will go 1-for-4 with 2 RBIs and a run on the day. And with this win, the St. Louis Cardinals are now 5-2. That is the second best record in the NL Central, as they now sit half a game behind the first place Cincinnati Reds. And with this loss, the Milwaukee Brewers are now 3-4. That is the 4th best record in the National League Central, as they now sit 2.5 games behind the first place Cincinnati Reds for the division. Jumping out to Toronto, jumping out to Buffalo, the Toronto Blue Jays hosted the Los Angeles Angels in a game that would it went into extra innings thanks to a 7th inning Shohei Ohtani RBI single. And once it made it to the 11th, it would be a 2-run single from David Fletcher that would put the Angels up 5-2. For the Toronto Blue Jays in this loss, the pitch would, of course, go to Ross Stripling, who would allow 4 earned runs in 5 innings pitched, as he struck out 5 batters on the day. Their third baseman, Cavan Biggio, would go 1-for-4 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their elite first baseman, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., would go 2-for-4 with 3 RBIs and a run, as he hit his second home run of the season for the Blue Jays. For the Angels in this matchup, the start would go to Griffin Canning, as he allowed 4 earned runs in his 5.1 innings pitched, as he struck out 7 batters on the day. Their second baseman, David Fletcher, would go 2-for-6 with 3 RBIs on the day. Their designated hitter, Ohtani, would go 1-for-5 with an RBI. Their goated center fielder, Mike Trout, would go 3-for-5 with an RBI and 2 runs, as he hit his 3rd home run of the season last night. And then alongside him, their right fielder, Dexter Fowler, would go 2-for-5 with a run. With this win, the Los Angeles Angels are now 5-2. That is the second best record in the AL West, as they now trail the first place Houston Astros by a game. And with this loss, the Toronto Blue Jays are now 3-4. That is the fourth best record in the American League East, as they now sit a full game behind the Boston Red Sox and the Baltimore Orioles, who are currently holding the best record in the division. And last but not least, the Houston Astros hosted the Oakland Athletics and were able to pull up a 6-2 win, as 4 of their runs came in the 6th and 7th inning. They scored all 6 of their runs. They were leading 6-0 going into the 9th inning, as both of the A's runs would come in the 9th. It just wouldn't be enough. For the Oakland Athletics in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Cole Irvin. Cole Irvin would allow 4 earned runs in 5.1 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters. With this loss, he is now 0-2 on the season. No one on the A's was able to register more than 1 hit on the day. Their elite third baseman, Matt Chapman, would go 0-4 as he struck out twice. For the Houston Astros, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Christian Javier, who would allow no earned runs and allow only 3 hits in 5 innings pitched, as he struck out 7 batters on the day. Their elite second baseman, Jose Altuve, would go 1-4 with an RBI and a run, as he hit his first home run of the season. Their elite third baseman, Alex Bregman, would go 0-4 on the day. Their designated hitter, Yordan Alvarez, would go 2-4 with an RBI and 2 runs, as he hit his second home run of the season. Their shortstop, Carlos Correa, would go 2-3 with 2 runs and with 2 RBIs and 2 runs and a walk, as he finished with his second home run of the season as well. With this win, the Houston Astros are now 6-1, as they now hold the best record in the American League West, and they hold the best record in the American League for that matter too. They now sit 1 game ahead of the second place Los Angeles Angels with this win. And with this loss, the Oakland Athletics are now 1-7. That is the worst record in the American League West. They now trail the first place Houston Astros by 5.5 games in the division. So that is what the MLB is currently looking like moving into today's matchups. Of course, just sifting through, because today is Friday. A lot of series are getting started today. At 3:10, the Tampa Bay Rays will host the New York Yankees, as the New York Yankees elite starting pitcher Corey Kluber looks to make his start the day before his birthday. At 4:10, the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers are going to host the 2019 MLB champs, the Washington Nationals. At 4:35, the San Francisco Giants are going to host the Colorado Rockies, as Johnny Cueto looks to get his first win of the season. At 7:07, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to host the Los Angeles Angels in Florida. At 7:10, these Cleveland Indians, led by Zach Plesac, are going to host the Detroit Tigers, led by Julio Teheran, following Julio Teheran's amazing first start. The Atlanta Braves are going to host the Philadelphia Phillies as they face off against each other for the second time, as Zach Wheeler looks to get his second win of the season versus Atlanta. At 8:05, the Texas Rangers are going to host the San Diego Padres as Joe Musgrove looks to get his second win of the season for San Diego. At 8:10, the Houston Astros will host the Oakland Athletics. That game will actually be on ESPN Plus, as Lance McCullers Jr. looks to get his second win of the season against Sean Manaea. And at 9:40, last but not least, the Arizona Diamondbacks will host the Cincinnati Reds, as the Reds currently hold the best record in the National League Central. So that's everything that's going on with baseball. And really quickly, just leaving the continent just to give a little bit of context into what's going on in the world of soccer. Right now, we are in the quarterfinal stage of continental play, and after Tuesday and Wednesday saw the first legs of Champions League quarterfinals. Thursday saw the first leg of Europa League quarterfinal first leg matches. First off, AS Roma was able to beat Ajax Amsterdam 2-1. Slavia Prague and Arsenal drew at 1, and they're going to go into the second leg. Dynamo Zagreb lost 1-0 to Villarreal, as their only goal came as a penalty kick in the 44th minute. And Manchester United was able to beat Granada 2-0. Their first goal will come from their elite English forward Marcus Rashford in the 31st minute, and their second goal will come in as a penalty kick in the 90th minute from their elite Portuguese midfielder Bruno Fernandes. So that's everything that's going on in Europe. And then jumping back to the States, of course, there was a CONCACAF Champions League match where Columbus Crew was able to beat Real Esteli 4-0 in order to get the advantage going into the next leg. Looking into today's matchups, because today is Friday, there's not much good soccer going on, but the only team that I would say that has some championship weight, that the only game that really carries some championship weight for today will be in France, as Lille will go to face off against Metz. Lille currently holds the best record in France after they beat PSG last week. They now sit 3 games ahead of them as the season is now winding down to the end. Metz holds the 9th best record in Ligue 1, so of course a win here would be very important for Lille if they could separate themselves from PSG in the table. With that said, that's everything going on for today. Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021. I'm James Sims. I want to thank you for listening to all 40 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well, and I will catch you tomorrow on Saturday, April 10th, once all of today's exhibitions will have finished. Thanks once again for listening to my piece, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.